look through the generations of women leaders, women who were sisters of freedom and moving us forward.
Good evening and welcome to this edition of Black Nouveau. I'm Joanne Williams. March is Women's History Month, and we'll visit an exhibit featuring Sisters of Freedom. We'll chat with members of the cast of A Raisin in the Sun and offer you a chance to win some tickets to the Milwaukee Rep's production of the Pulitzer Prize-winning play. We'll also profile Steve Pemberton, author of A Chance in the World and the keynote speaker at the Milwaukee Times' recent 28th Annual Black Excellence Awards. But we begin with 180 Days. It's a 4-hour documentary that will air over 2 nights on PBS next week. It's the portrait of an urban public school that attempts to make a difference in the lives of its at-risk students. Here's a preview.
You can't improve our educational system without focusing on the lowest performing schools. We have $1.1 billion budget in D.C. public schools. The real question is how are we making it a priority to focus on the areas that need it the most?
I used to be on the street a long time at night, selling drugs, getting what I gotta get, and robbing people. I used to be bad.
Before DC met, I failed 4 or 5 courses. This was because lack of attendance, suspensions. I really did not like class at all.
We were all horribly shocked when we saw that we had a 7% proficiency rate in math. It actually dropped by 50% from the year before.
So, chemical reactions occur all the time. As a matter of fact, right now.
Smythe is what you would call a textbook first-year teacher. Nervous, all over the place. And unfortunately, it may take him bumping his head against the wall for a little bit, but I'll be there for him every time.
You guys are the first graduating class of the Washington Metropolitan High School, and that is a big deal. That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Ring that bell. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Accepted to Bennett College.
Oh, it's that feeling.
Oh my goodness, I just got into Lincoln. I cannot wait to tell my mom because she's gonna be really relieved.
I just noticed the sign and I was so, happy. I was running in the building telling everybody about it, but they already knew.
In too many troubled neighborhoods across the country, the conditions of our poorest citizens appear little changed from what existed 50 years ago. Our work is not done.
Hello, I wanted to talk to you about Danielle. She's missed a lot of days from school. I think our kids are just responding to so many crises, so much trauma in their lives, that it definitely impacts them.
My mother, she was sick from breast cancer. And now that she passed, it's just her kids in the house.
My favorite tattoo is the portrait of her. It's actually the picture on the front of her obituary.
What happens to our students if nobody pays attention to them?
I'll pull them out this way!
And it's not a game. Sometimes we forget that we are in a system that's in the middle of an educational reform, right? It's almost as if we are at war.
We're joined now by Valencia Brown, Assistant Dean for the School of Pre-College at MATC. Welcome.
Thank you.
First of all, 180 days refers to what?
180 days refers to a school out in D.C. It's from the start of the first day of school all the way to the end. And it's kind of telling the story of what it's like to start a school with a bunch of at-risk high school students and get them to actually graduate.
Okay, what's an at-risk high school student?
At-risk high school could mean students who are behind in grade level, a single parent, adjudicated youth, and they're just in jeopardy of not graduating high school.
That could cover thousands of kids.
Definitely.
And not only in D.C., but here in Milwaukee.
Oh, for sure.
What about here in Milwaukee? Do we have those kind of students here?
Yes, we do. We have them, in our regular high schools, in our at-risk high schools, our alternative high schools, and we actually have an at-risk high school here at MATC. It's called the Emerging Scholars Program.
What do you teach those children? Where do you start with them, and where do you try and bring them to?
Well, we start with them from wherever they're at. Some students come in with 3 credits, and they keep going until they finish the requirements for graduation. Some come in with, 1 or 2 credits needed for graduation, and then they take those classes and they graduate high school. So wherever they're at, we start with them from wherever they're at and work with them until they graduate high school. They meet the same graduation requirements as Milwaukee Public Schools.
How are they motivated to come to your school or to any at-risk school?
Well, it's kind of funny. Most of them start out in a regular high school, and then they attend an alternative high school. And MATC is kind of like their last step. And if they really want, by the time they get here, they really want their high school diploma. We offer things like Student of the Quarter and different incentives that we give the students, kind of like other high schools. But really, when they get here, it's their last step, and they're ready to graduate.
So what kind of challenges do you have to face with these kids? Let's say, on what grade level are they reading?
We do have those challenges. Some of them come in very low, and we have reading classes to work with them. Some come in, high, and we don't have to work as hard with them. What's good is we have a contract with Milwaukee Public Schools, so students with special needs, they send people over to work with those students to kind of help them with their work so that they don't fall behind, so that they can stay on track for graduation.
The school you run for MATC, is it right here on the downtown campus, or do you go to their high schools?
No, it's right here at the downtown campus. We have 75 at-risk high school students.
Isn't that a little bit unusual for them? Do they feel odd being in a college setting when they're really finishing high school?
It is kind of unusual, but if you look at it, it's set in the precedence that, okay, you're already here, you're getting your high school diploma, and college is for you, so they don't have to leave. They can stay right here, start here, go there, and that's one of the models of MATC.
Always important, what are your outcomes? How many of your students actually get those high school diplomas?
Well, it's kind of funny because we don't have like 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade. So a student can, like I said, it can come in, with 2 credits. So last year we graduated 12 students, which is good for us because we only have 75. But this year we're going to have 17. So our numbers are looking pretty good compared to what we have in the difference that we are compared to a regular high school.
Are you happy with those numbers?
I'm happy with those numbers, yes, because we don't have a regular 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade. If we had a 9th, 10th, then it would be different and I could, show you more statistics. But since we don't have the regular high school, it's kind of different to show statistics.
So bringing at-risk kids up to their grade level and moving them out.
Yes.
Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
It was nice to talk to you and nice to learn about the at-risk program that you have here.
Thank you.
180 Days airs in 2 2-hour parts next Monday and Tuesday at 8 p.m. on Channel 10.1. March is Women's History Month. You may not know how many African American women were involved in the civil rights struggles of the 1960s and beyond, and you may not know how many are still working today to improve their communities and give everyone an equal chance in America. So Mount Mary College put a display in downtown Milwaukee that tells us some of those fascinating and important stories. This poster display is called Sisters of Freedom, African American Women Moving Us Forward. It covers dozens of true stories, many more than most of us knew. It's designed to be eye-opening.
The Rotunda is certainly the heart of the city in many ways, in terms of people coming here to do their everyday business, all the way up to people who make decisions for the city. We wanted it to greet people on many different levels, everything from the momentary glance of, wow, I didn't know there could be so many women on an exhibit like this, and of course, way to people who we've watched them take an hour to work through it and read every detail.
This poster display gives you lots of detail. It's owned by Mount Mary College, but was fashioned and constructed by the Syracuse cultural workers. Dr. Lynn Worley attended Syracuse and commissioned her friends to develop the exhibit. The display covers more than 100 years of American history, illustrated through the actions of Black women.
The point really is to look through the generations of women leaders, women who were sisters of freedom and moving us forward. So it is a gradual progression of women who were fantastically involved in civil rights and justice from slavery era, like Sojourner Truth or Dada or Zora Neale Hurston, all the way up to our contemporary women who are alive and well in the city of Milwaukee.
These cats are just too dumb just too dumb to know when they have something going for them.
Vel Phillips, a groundbreaking Milwaukee alderwoman, judge, and Secretary of State. Her work on Milwaukee's first open housing law set the stage for laws all over the country. Martha Love, community activist, founder of the African American Women Fund Project, and former chair of the Wisconsin Democratic Party. Gwen Jackson, a leader for more than 50 years in the American Red Cross. The United Way named a community award for her. MPS put her name on a school.
When I go into the schools, children will often know the famous names like Harriet Tubman and Sojourner Truth, but this exhibit takes them deeper.
Many of these women on the display are not included in school history books. You'd have to do your own research to learn their stories. That's one of the reasons the Mount Mary professors helped develop the display. They wanted another way to share this history and education with as many people as possible. People of all ages and colors.
Sing hallelujah!
Sister Shawnee Daniels Sykes was witness to the history of many of the women on display. For her, this show is personal.
That I've been very blessed, actually, to have met a Mary Wright Edelman, for example, to have had an opportunity to sit in Sister's Chapel at Spelman College with Coretta Scott King, and to even have had a chance to meet Rosa Parks. And so to have been in those spaces just really brings this exhibit home for me. Being able to sit with them and hold their hands and hug them, it's just a really, really powerful piece. And so I just feel really, really grateful.
When it's been on display, what reactions do you get from people who see it?
One of awe, one of remembering, one of really wanting to step back and get to know who these women are.
Mostly had people, when I've been with it and traveled with it, mostly people have come up to me and said thank you. I mean, that's been the number one reaction is thank you for putting this together. This is really impressive.
The display has been shown in community centers, churches, and schools in southeast Wisconsin. Shawnee Daniels Sykes believes it's particularly important for young African American women and girls to see.
Young women who have seen the exhibit, many of them don't have a sense of who these women are and that they stand on the shoulders of these giants, these women that have set the pace for where they are and where they can be in the future.
The exhibit was on display for 2 weeks at Milwaukee City Hall. If your organization or school would like to have the Sisters of Freedom panels on display, contact Mount Mary College. The number is 414-258-4810, extension 473. The exhibit is free.
People look at me and they see my business card, they see my title, see all the things that I do, and they make judgments and assumptions about me.
Some of these young people at Milwaukee's Running Rebels community organization also made an assumption about Steve Pemberton. Pemberton is the Chief Diversity Officer and Division Vice President of Walgreens. He's the first person in the history of the company to hold this position. People have said, and I'm sure these young people also thought, he doesn't look like his story.
So I grew up in Boston, and I bounced from one home to another home. People took me in for money, and I knew it, and I felt it. There was extraordinary violence, starvation, and hospitalizations, and hunger on a daily basis. And that was my childhood from the time that I was born until the time that I actually managed to escape when I was 16 years old. And it nearly cost me my life to do so. So I don't have the upbringing that people think I have when they first see me. They look at what I do and they think, oh, well, you know, he had parents, he had a home, he had all these things around him. So that's why he's successful. And that's not true. I have the exact opposite.
Steve Pemberton has written a book about his growing up and difficult path through foster care, written first to answer his own children's questions about where he's from.
The cellar was cold, musty, and dank, nothing more than a jumbled storage space for many of the things the foster family had discarded. To them, this was exactly where I belonged. Amid this clutter, I fashioned a makeshift reading space, composed of mildewy clothes, torn pillows, and old box springs. Despite the risk they imposed, my books became my shelter, protecting me as a foster family's slings and arrows rained overhead. There was no greater love for me.
He also wrote it for young people in similar struggles and to give them a pathway, and for adults who have not come to terms with their own childhood. He entered the foster care system because his mother couldn't take care of her children.
Into my teens, I would stare long and hard in the mirror, drinking in every detail of my features.
I was constantly trying to figure out what I was, and therefore what kind of family I should be with, largely whether or not that should be a white family or a black family. And they were, I think, so busy, focused on racial identity and less on home and security and safety, things that are a bit more universal than that. And they, as a result, I think lost sight of that. And so I wound up in very difficult foster homes because of it.
He conveys the importance of social workers and that they are standing in the gap.
As I wrote, it was really clear that all you needed was one small action that could have changed the arc of my childhood. And it would and should have come from a caseworker who you wished had seen more and could have seen more. So I think they're taking that and saying, well, I'm going to make sure that I look further than the story that I'm sometimes given by a foster family about a child.
As with the story given by his foster family.
They didn't see how shrewd and manipulative the foster family was. This is a terrible place, extraordinarily violent. And they were always able to explain away how malnourished I was. Well, that was tapeworms. Hospitalizations, oh, well, he fell and hurt himself. How quiet and withdrawn I was, well, something about him isn't right. And they just accepted the answer that the foster family gave them. And they also couldn't see the fighter in me. They couldn't see how much I was trying to get out of that situation.
In A Chance in the World, an orphan boy, mysterious past, and how he found a place called home. He wants to get across the message of owning what you inherit and building something from it.
I was definitely trying to get a message across to men, particularly in the telling of my father's life, who also suffered a great deal and lost a lot as well. But he also made different choices than I did. And he didn't believe that he could alter the circumstance. And so all that anger he really visited upon the world. And I was similarly so saying to men, it's you. I mean, you're the one. You're the one. That's no affront to women in any way, shape, or form, or mothers at all. But oftentimes, it's the man, his presence, his absence, that can cast a long shadow over the son or the daughter. And that child needs you, just as I needed my father.
Steve Pemberton lives in possibilities. He sees possibilities, not circumstances. He wants young people to understand that there's nothing special about him.
And whatever it is that exists in me exists in you too. You ought to walk away from here saying, well, he's standing there, and I can stand here too, one day.
You mean graft?
Call it that. Goes to show you how much women know about the world. Baby, don't nothing happen for you in this world unless somebody gets paid off.
Walter, leave me alone. Eat your eggs, you're gonna be cold.
See? A man say to his woman, I got me a dream. She says, eat your eggs, they getting cold. Man say to his woman, help me now to take a hole in this world somehow, and she says, eat your eggs and go to work. I tell you, I gotta change my life because I'm choking to death, and all you say to me is eat these eggs.
Walter, that ain't none of our money, and I ain't gonna be harassing your mama about it.
Sidney Poitier in A Raisin in the Sun. That's when I first fell in love with somebody. He was great, and the movie was great. But Lorraine Hansberry's award-winning play is currently on stage at the Milwaukee Rep. It's through April 14th. And we are joined by Mildred Marie Langford and Shike Johnson, who play Ruth and Walter Lee Younger in this production here in Milwaukee. Welcome, both of you.
Thank you.
Those are some big shoes to fill, but are you up to it?
Of course. At least I think so. We'll see. It's mainly on the audience, I guess, to say if if I do a good job. I just hope that I can bring some truth to Lorraine's words and have some fun, as I take this journey with Walter Lee.
Now, Raisin in the Sun is not just a play. A Raisin in the Sun is a cultural statement that was made by Lorraine Hansberry, and it's been done over and over and over again. What do you want to bring to your character that maybe hasn't been seen before?
I think it's with any character that I play, it's hopefully as much honesty and feeling as I possibly can. I know Ron, the director, really stressed to us in rehearsal how much he wanted the audience to feel what was happening on stage, and I think that's something all of us are really trying to accomplish, is to have the audience feel as much as they possibly can, and I think that will come from being as honest and as truthful about what is happening in each person's life at this point in time. Within the play, and really giving in to their circumstances. And
how much do you want your characters set in 1959, I think?
Early 1950s, actually.
Right,
yeah.
Even before that. Yeah. To connect with your audiences in 2013.
That's a loaded question. Yeah. I guess I could speak. It's a loaded question. How do you say it? Well, I think Raisin in the Sun applies to 2013 just as much as it did back then. I think when you think of segregation, when you think of the dividing line between races in our country, things have gotten better, but in some ways they haven't. And so I think this speaks to that. Mm-hmm. The difficulties we have as, the difficulties we have as a race, as a culture. I'm trying not to.
It also deals with the relationship in a family.
Right.
And those kind of relationships are still
exactly,
there.
yes. So, I mean, the story itself is universal, as well as bring some things to the forefront that, we should deal with, yes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do you want to bring the struggles of the family to the audience, too, so that they can relate to maybe that's something that I know in my family?
Absolutely, and then also being able to show them that a family can overcome those strifes, that, as long as the family finds a way to bond themselves back together. And I think that's what happens in A Raisin in the Sun. By the end, when Mama says, Walter came into his manhood, they all kind of found a way to bond together because they were taking this huge leap beyond what they knew and what they were comfortable with to start this new journey together. And I think that's something that will speak loudly to audiences, that, even though a family is dealing with particular issues, that if they are willing to come together, that they can overcome anything.
Do you think younger audiences are going to really connect with it the same way that people who are a little bit older may be able to connect with it?
That's interesting, because I was speaking to one of the other castmates who's an intern at Milwaukee Rep, and we were talking about the character of Benitha and how she is sort of this person who, she's this modern day woman. She's sort of a person out of her time, and she's college educated. She's very opinionated and very strong and passionate about a lot of issues going on in the world, and how she's sort of struggling with that because she's also she's still under her mother's roof. So there's still, rules and things that she has to go by because her mother is still sort of head of this household. And so she's not really free to go in and speak her mind about certain things as she might be if she were on campus and just talking with her friends. And he sort of talked about how that was something he sort of struggled with, finding, going back home after college and feeling like, you know, you're grown and you should be able to say what's on your mind and not have anybody tell you, you know, that you can't say that, but then you're still at your mama's house and she's like, oh, that's not gonna go. Right. So kind of that thing of trying to find your independence, you know, and how do you do that without, you know, offending people or feeling like you can't, like you're stuck, like you can't break out of this box that you're in because you feel that you're grown, and yet there's still people who still see you as a child.
Well,
you know?
and that's what the title says. Mm-hmm. What happens to a raisin in the sun?
Right, right.
Does it just fester or does it explode?
Right.
And that's what you're going to deal with in the play.
Right, right.
If somebody says, should we do this play in 2013, would you say yes or no?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. It's a classic.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right.
It's a classic.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure when young audiences come to see it and young women come to see it, they're going to fall in love with you, just like I did with Sidney Poitier. These are two actors from A Raisin in the Sun at the Milwaukee Rep. Go and see it. You'll enjoy it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A Raisin in the Sun continues at the Milwaukee Rep through April 14th. If you would like to see it, we have 4 pairs of tickets to give 4 viewers who can answer the following question. The phrase, "A Raisin in the Sun," originally comes from a poem by what African-American poet? We need your answer, your name, address, and phone number in order for you to win. Call us at 414-297-7556 or email us at tvviewer@mptv.org. We must receive your answer by 6 p.m. March 24th. And that's our program for this week. For Black Nouveau, I'm Joanne Williams. Thanks for watching. Good night.